Watch the movement, watch the passion, the feeling, the enthusiasm that these young people are putting behind. It's fantastic, it's phenomenal. So much that you say, but why should we be afraid of AI? A totally new industry is coming, a totally new way to create films. Nobody will forbid to continue the way we are doing it. We need to make sure that we can provide these tools, and tomorrow we will have people that will try to explain the way that these new tools can be really used to young people, because our objective is to discover the new talents for tomorrow, the new Claude Lelouch that tomorrow we will honor for what he has done. And the orchestra will play something fantastic, you will see.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring how artificial intelligence is fundamentally rewiring the international movie and television landscape.
And this isn't just about novelty anymore.
Right. Our mission today isn't to look at AI as like a fun little gimmick to make a funny video on your phone.
No.
We're digging into how it has become the core infrastructure of global storytelling.
Which is a huge shift for anyone working in or watching media.
For sure. And to help you make sense of this, we've gathered a whole stack of sources. We've got industry forecasts from Media Taylor, dispatches from that World AI Film Festival in Cannes, technical analyses from McKinsey and AI.MAG, and even some really fascinating academic papers on film aesthetics.
I think the velocity of this shift is what you really have to pay attention to. Like if you just look at the raw numbers from the World AI Film Festival, or WAIFF, as they call it.
Right, WIF.
Yeah. In their inaugural year, which was 2025, they received about 1,500 submissions, but just 12 months later, for the 2026 edition, that number exploded to over 7,000.
That is wild. 5 times the growth in 1 year.
Exactly. But what's really fascinating here is where those films actually came from.
Yeah, because traditional U.S. Hollywood studios were conspicuously absent from that submission pool, weren't they?
Oh, completely. They were essentially ghosting the festival.
Meanwhile, South Korea alone submitted over 1,300 films.
Yeah, so we're witnessing this massive geographic redistribution of creative power.
Just a total shift away from the traditional hubs.
Right. I mean, for a century, the gatekeepers in the United States have dominated cinematic technology. But now those same U.S. studios are hesitating. They're largely bogged down by copyright anxieties and labor union negotiations.
While everyone else just runs ahead.
Yeah. Independent creators in Asia, the Middle East, Europe, they're aggressively building completely new synthetic workflows.
I really want to look closely at who those creators actually are.
Yeah.
Because this industry-level clash in Cannes, it isn't just some, old guard versus new tech-savvy kids story.
Yeah, not at all.
There was this one detail from the festival that I found incredibly surprising. One of the biggest stars of WAIFF this year was Claude Lelouch.
Oh, yeah. The French director.
Right. He's an 88-year-old Oscar-winning legend. He's worked with every heavy physical film format you can imagine, 8mm, 35mm, 70mm, and he just announced he's making his 50-second film using generative AI.
And his reasoning for it was brilliant.
It really was. When they asked him why he was doing this, he just said, "I've got my childhood back." Here's where it gets really interesting. They're calling this the new nouvelle vague, like a whole new wave of cinema.
Well, think about what the camera has represented to a director like Lelouch for the last 60 years. It's a massive, heavy machine.
Oh, totally.
It requires immense funding, a crew of dozens just to move the thing, and this constant logistical war against weather and daylight.
Right, you're constantly fighting the elements.
Exactly. So AI gives him a tool to visualize his imagination instantaneously without the friction of traditional physical production. It strips away all that industrial burden and just returns him to the pure, unencumbered play of telling a story.
I mean, I hear the romance in that, I really do. But I'm honestly struggling to buy into it completely.
How so?
Well, okay, let's unpack this. It's one thing to generate a neat image on a screen, but can a machine actually replace the nuance of directing?
That's the big question.
To me, it feels like a novelist suddenly getting a ghostwriter. Like, if I hire someone to write my book, I might give them the broad outline, but they are the ones choosing the verbs. They're pacing the sentences.
Right, they're doing the micro decisions.
Exactly. In a film, if the AI is deciding the micro expressions of an actor's face or the exact fall of a shadow, doesn't the work inherently lack a soul? Like, where's the human touch?
That anxiety is entirely justified, and it's actually something the festival organizers at WAIFF anticipated.
Oh, really? How did they handle it?
Well, they didn't want a festival full of people who just typed "make a sad movie" into a single prompt box. So they implemented this structural requirement called the Rule of Three.
Okay, what does that mean?
To even qualify for the competition, filmmakers had to prove they used at least 3 distinct generative AI tools in a linked pipeline.
Oh, gotcha. So they're forcing a more complex workflow, so you can't just let one single algorithm do all the heavy lifting.
Precisely. You're required to act as a systems architect. You might use one specific AI model just to generate the base architectural environment because it excels at geometric structures.
Right.
Then you port that environment into a second model specifically trained on cinematic lighting and camera physics, maybe to simulate the exact lens flares of a vintage anamorphic lens.
Okay, wow.
And finally, a third model synthesizes the atmospheric soundscape and motion dynamics.
So the human is essentially acting as an orchestrator. You are constantly curating and refining and rejecting what the machine offers you.
Yeah, the experts in AI.MAG describe it as an augmented imagination. The machine acts as a tireless, incredibly fast concept artist working alongside you.
Pumping out ideas.
Exactly. It offers a dozen variations of a moment, but the human provides the taste, the intentionality, and the final cut. You are still directing. Your crew is just algorithmic.
You know, if the director's role is shifting toward being a systems architect, that fundamentally rewrites the actual mechanics of how these movies are produced.
Oh, it flips the whole process upside down.
Because if you can instantly visualize exactly what you want before you ever step onto a set, the actual timeline of filmmaking inverts. Like, the McKinsey analysis points out that the classic Hollywood safety net, that old producer's mantra of, we'll fix it in post-production, is dead.
Yeah, we are now living in the era of fix it in pre.
Fix it in pre, I love that.
I mean, pre-production used to be just rough pencil sketches on storyboards and endless theoretical budget meetings.
Right, just a lot of guesswork.
Now, it's the phase where the actual photorealistic visual reality of the film is constructed. You are literally solving the movie before you even shoot it.
And the specific tools they're using to achieve this are just fascinating. Like, take Curo 2.0, for instance. Have you looked at this platform?
Oh, yeah, the algorithmic budgeting software.
Yes. You feed it a standard script PDF, and the AI instantly digests the entire narrative. It identifies every scene, groups the sequences, and projects the entire cost.
It's incredibly fast.
But I was reading the sources trying to figure out how it does that so accurately. And it turns out it's cross-referencing industry data in real time.
Right, it's tied into the real-world logistics.
Exactly. Like, if a producer decides to change a massive battle scene from daytime to nighttime, the software automatically parses union guidelines, calculates the mandatory turnaround times for night shoots, factors in the cost of renting giant lighting trucks, and just dynamically updates the total budget.
That kind of transparency is revolutionary for a producer. It completely neutralizes the financial ambiguity that usually plagues the early stages of film development.
And if you look at the visual side, with platforms like DrawStory and WeDaVinci AI, they digest the script text and instantly generate fully animated concept trailers.
Yeah, the pitch process is totally different now.
It is. You aren't walking into a studio pitch meeting with a piece of paper and a dream anymore. You are sitting the executives down and showing them the tone, the pacing, and the visual language of the movie before a single actor has been cast.
And when you combine that algorithmic budgeting with perfect pre-visualization, the physical reality of shooting a film changes drastically. You start leaning really heavily on virtual studios.
That means LED volume stages.
Exactly.
For anyone unfamiliar, an LED volume is essentially a massive curved wall of ultra-high definition screens that entirely surrounds the actors.
Yeah, it's incredible tech.
Instead of a green screen where you have to add the background in later, the AI renders the perfect photorealistic background on the screens in real time, and the physical camera just films it all right there.
The Media Taylor report frames the utility of this perfectly. Like, if you're a producer and your script calls for a scene in a dangerous, freezing, pitch-black underground coal mine, you have a choice.
A very expensive choice.
Right. Do you fly a crew of 200 people to an actual mine, deal with the safety hazards, the unpredictable weather, and the logistical nightmare? Or do you just walk your actors into a warm, safe, climate-controlled studio in Los Angeles?
Where the AI is rendering a flawless, infinitely controllable coal mine on the screens around them.
Exactly. The warm studio wins every time.
It really does. It's safer, the hours are predictable, and you aren't waiting around for the sun to come out from behind a cloud.
And, crucially, it requires a fraction of the budget.
Which brings us to the real financial earthquake at the center of this. Because shooting on an LED volume with AI pre-visualization doesn't just, trim the margins. It fundamentally alters who actually has permission to make movies.
It democratizes the medium.
During the WAIFF Pro Talks, French director Mathieu Kassovitz shared some staggering numbers. You know him. He's the filmmaker behind that incredible 90s classic, La Haine.
Oh yeah, fantastic director.
Well, he actually paused the pre-production of his upcoming animated feature, God of War, specifically to overhaul his workflow and integrate these generative AI tools.
And the savings were massive.
Unreal. By doing so, he took a projected budget of $50 to $60 million and slashed it down to $25 million.
He literally halved the financial risk of a massive feature film overnight.
It's unprecedented.
And you have to look at where those cuts actually occur. When the AI handles the iterative visual design, you're drastically reducing the size of your pre-visualization departments. You're eliminating physical location scouts entirely. You are collapsing a post-production timeline that used to take 14 months down to maybe 4.
But the democratization goes way beyond just saving millions for established Hollywood elites. The sources also highlight the other extreme end of the spectrum.
You mean the independent creators?
Exactly. There's this 22-year-old Swiss-Italian filmmaker named Dario Cirincione. He had a concept for a short film meant to visually express the disassociated, terrifying reality of dementia.
A very complex visual idea.
Extremely.
Yeah.
He wanted to show environments subtly morphing, faces fading into unfamiliarity, just incredibly complex visual effects. To execute that traditionally, it would have cost him around 20,000 euros, which he simply didn't have.
Right, that's a huge barrier for a 22-year-old.
But by using AI generation, the entire project cost him just 500 euros.
Wow.
Think about what this means for you, or really anyone listening who has a story locked in their head. The traditional gatekeepers, the executives you had to know just to get a grant to rent a camera package, they are suddenly irrelevant.
Yeah, they're bypassed completely.
If you have an idea and a few $100 for server time, you can put your vision on a screen.
The total collapse of the barrier to entry is the dream of every independent artist, right? But I think you do have to acknowledge the shadow side of that accessibility.
I do, yeah, because my immediate thought is, if anyone can create a technically flawless, highly polished movie in their bedroom over a weekend, won't our culture just be flooded with what critics are calling AI slop?
Yeah, it is the big fear.
Doesn't this democratization inevitably lead to massive homogenization? I really worry we're headed for a world where every single film looks like a glossy, sterile video game cutscene.
It's a massive concern among the visual aesthetics researchers we looked at because AI models, by their very design, are statistical engines.
Right, they just average things out.
Exactly. They aim for a mathematically perfect output based on the average of their training data. So when an AI generates a human face, it smooths out the asymmetrical quirks. It creates perfect lighting.
And it just looks wrong.
Right. That mathematical perfection results in the uncanny valley. It's that creepy, unsettling feeling you get when something looks almost human, but is just slightly flawlessly off. It entirely lacks the messiness of reality.
Because humans aren't mathematically perfect. So when our art is, our brains just reject it.
Exactly, which is why the most sophisticated AI filmmakers are now utilizing this technique called imperfection tuning.
Imperfection tuning.
Yeah. They realize that perfection is boring, and it's an immediate giveaway that a machine made the image.
So how does imperfection tuning actually work? Are they just slapping a dirty film grain filter over the video file at the end and calling it a day?
No, it's actually much deeper than that. They are manipulating the AI's latent space.
Okay, the latent space.
Yeah, you can think of the latent space as the foundational multidimensional map where the AI understands concepts. So instead of adding a filter later, the creators are prompting the AI at a foundational level to simulate the physical flaws of a real camera. They force the algorithm to calculate a slight misfocus on the lens, or simulate the mechanical gate weave of 35mm film literally rattling through a projector.
That is so specific.
They instruct the AI to make lighting errors, or add motion blur from a shaky human hand. They are actively forcing the supercomputer to make human mistakes during the generation process.
That is wonderfully counterintuitive.
Yeah.
I mean, for 100 years, camera engineers fought against physics to make lenses sharper and gimbal smoother.
Right, the pursuit of perfection.
And now we are using the most advanced computational engines in human history to digitally put the bumps and scratches back in. We're literally programming vulnerability.
Because vulnerability signals authenticity.
Yeah.
And to cut through the endless noise of all that AI slop, curation is going to become the most valuable service in the industry.
Which makes total sense.
We're already seeing platforms like Shake.ai emerge.
Yeah.
They're positioning themselves as the Netflix of AI, and their entire business model is built on filtering out the mathematically perfect, low-effort junk.
So they act as the new gatekeepers, basically.
In a way, yeah. They curate only the highest quality, human-driven AI films, where the creators have intentionally injected that necessary friction and imperfection.
Curation replacing production funding is the main bottleneck. Makes a lot of sense. But, while injecting artificial flaws to make new stories feel real is a fascinating artistic choice, we run into a massive wall when we start using this technology to perfectly mimic reality in the past.
Yes. You're talking about the ethical boundaries of historical recreation.
The ethical thicket here is incredibly dense. The sources detail this project that is sparking furious debate right now. Have you seen what the company showrunner is doing?
With the Orson Welles film, yes, it's incredibly controversial.
Right. They are attempting to use generative AI to fully reconstruct the lost 43 minutes of Orson Welles' 1942 masterpiece, The Magnificent Ambersons.
And just for some historical context, The Magnificent Ambersons is essentially the holy grail of lost cinema.
Yeah, it's legendary.
The studio executives basically took the film away from Orson Welles, chopped out 43 minutes of his deeply personal footage, and literally melted the original celluloid down to extract the silver during World War II.
It is genuinely one of the greatest crimes in cinematic history.
Without a doubt.
And now, 80 years later, showrunner wants to undo that crime. They're using surviving archival production photos, Welles' original storyboards, and his script to visually reconstruct the missing scenes.
Which is somewhat standard preservation, but then they take it a step further.
Right, here is where it gets crazy. They're training AI audio models on vintage 1940s radio broadcasts to completely resurrect the voices of the deceased cast.
So the intention is preservation, but the mechanism is entirely synthetic.
Right. I mean, is this historical preservation, or are we just generating a very convincing fake? It feels like using a 3D printer to perfectly recreate the missing arms of the Venus de Milo and just gluing them on.
That's a great analogy.
Just because we have the technological capability to fill in the historical blanks, does it mean we should? Like, what happens if the AI audio model hallucinates an inflection or a line delivery that Orson Welles himself never would have chosen? You are cementing a machine's guess into the historical record.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that Orson Welles project forces us to confront a much broader intellectual property crisis. We are entering an era where we have to define cognitive sovereignty.
Cognitive sovereignty.
Yes. Like, who owns the rights to a historical voice? Who owns the signature visual pacing of a deceased director? The traditional copyright laws we rely on were built for physical media and direct plagiarism. They simply cannot compute the reality of generative models.
Because the AI had to learn what Orson Welles sounded like, or what a compelling script structure looks like, by digesting millions of hours of copyrighted human creation.
Exactly. Jean-Michel Jarre, the electronic music pioneer, he actually served as an ambassador at WAIFF this year, and he delivered a very sharp critique of this exact dynamic.
What did he say?
He pointed out that the entire miracle of generative AI rests entirely on the bedrock of human creation. The machine cannot dream without the data we fed it.
So true.
His argument is that artists must stop being treated as mere data suppliers for tech giants and start demanding to be treated as structural business partners.
The legal friction there is that the AI doesn't just copy and paste. It synthesizes that training data so deeply within its latent space that it is virtually impossible to point to the final generated film and identify the original source material it learned from.
All mixed together.
Right. So how do you pay royalties when the algorithm has ground the original art down to just a mathematical soup?
You likely can't, which means the industry will have to invent entirely new economic frameworks to remunerate creators, or risk completely hollowing out the very human culture that fuels machines in the first place.
So what does this all mean for you, as someone who loves to watch movies? We are looking at a technology that is the ultimate double-edged sword.
It really is.
On one side, the democratization is undeniable and beautiful. A 22-year-old with a €500 budget can bypass the entire studio system and bring a deeply personal vision of dementia to life.
Which is an incredible leap forward for art.
But on the other side, it shatters our consensus reality. It forces us to question the definition of authorship, the boundaries of historical truth, and whether the media we consume has any authentic human connection left in it.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, really building on that exact tension.
Here's it.
We are rapidly approaching a threshold where AI models won't just assist with budgeting or background rendering. They will be capable of instantly generating a technically flawless, perfectly paced, visually stunning blockbuster from a single well-crafted paragraph.
A movie from a prompt.
Yes. And when the actual technical execution of a film becomes that effortless, the value of execution drops to zero. It becomes completely commoditized. In that imminent future, the only truly valuable commodity left in Hollywood won't be money, and it won't be technical skill. It will be human intentionality. It really leaves us to wonder if a machine can perfectly replicate the lighting, the pacing, and the style of a master filmmaker, what does the word directing actually mean anymore?
That is a fascinating thought. Perhaps directing is no longer about moving lights and cameras. Perhaps it's entirely about the emotional weight behind the prompt. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great.
The next time you sit down in a dark theater or turn on your television, take a moment to look closer at the screen and ask yourself whose hands, human or digital, are really pulling the strings. Keep asking questions, keep looking closer, and we will catch you on the next one.